This is The Fresh Wire with Jason Grewal. Hey everyone, hope you're having a good morning, afternoon, day, evening, night, wherever you are, whenever you're listening. I appreciate you tuning in. Let's dive into something crazy, maybe something interesting, special. I've got a few predetermined topics here. We're going to be looking it over. Not sure how long this podcast is going to be, but we're going to be tuning in either way. It is right now, August 9th, 2023. I am starting this at 10:44 p.m., technically 10:43. Let's just dive into it. So the first topic I have set here is about Apple apparently moving the iPhone end call button. I'm starting that because a lot of people listening on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast probably use an iPhone or something that's iOS. Well, if you call through a traditional means and not through the numerous other ways to call people, well, where you use your and where the end call button is going to be is actually going to be moving from the center, which my Samsung Galaxy phone is, and it's going to be moving to the bottom right of these 6 icons from what I'm seeing, the images. With iOS 16, it's mute, keypad, speaker, end call, FaceTime, contacts, and then at the bottom is the end call button. For people that don't use iPhones, including me, I'm just looking at some images on an article. They're moving it to where the contacts used to be, and it seems like the icons overall are being moved. In general, it's going to be speaker, FaceTime, instead of on the bottom, it's going to be on the top. Mute will be on the right instead of the left. And instead of add call, it's going to be add. So it looks like they're going to be mixing the contacts and add call function into one, which may be better for simplicity. But some people may not appreciate it. I think the end call button, has probably been there for a long time, it seems, probably several years. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, what some would say, but it seems like they're simplifying it for simplifying purposes. Whether or not it sticks is unknown, as it is currently in a beta for iOS 17. So it may not be how it stays, but it will be interesting if it does stay. And it could involve something to do with maybe the iPhone 15 lineup. I'm not sure, as they're expected to announce it. Usually, I think in September. Maybe not the 21st night of it, but usually it's September that they announce them. And that's also around the time iOS 17 or the next iOS version will be complete. Actually, I'm not sure about the complete of iOS. It might be early October, late September, usually a little after the conference, around the time the new iPhone releases. So it might stick that way, it might not. But if it does, maybe it could be something configurable. If not, then I guess people just have to get used to it, because it's always recommended to update to the latest iOS version if you're able to. I think iPhone 8 and 10 users, or iPhone X users, will not be able to upgrade to iOS 17. That I distinctly remember. So, hey, you won't have to worry about that. You'll instead have to worry about upgrading your phone that you've had for quite a few years, unless you bought it used. Unless you're fine with security updates, which many may be, and that's something I'm okay with as well. So, overall, probably won't be a big deal, but you never know. Some people, may stick with what they like for so long, and then when it changes in ways that may be unnecessary, they might not like it. We'll see if it sticks. On to something a little less technical and more into entertainment. Emmys vendors have been officially informed that the telecast is moving out of September. It's an exclusive article by Variety, and it seems to be that it's the first time official word has been put out that the date of September 18th for the upcoming 75th Primetime Emmys has been pushed. Now, it's pretty difficult to not know this, but I'll mention it. There have been a writer's strike for, I think I saw 100 days, so a little over 3 months. And then within the past month, there's been an actor's strike, which dramatically put it out there that this is going to be something that has to be resolved soon, in my opinion. I hope the union people, the writers and the actors and everyone in between, everyone around them, get what they want, get what they deserve, in a good way that benefits them. With that being said, the article says this is the first time the Emmys have been postponed since 2001. If it wasn't obvious, it says it's from the 9/11 terrorist attacks, pushing it into November. And it actually was pushed again because of initial military action in Afghanistan. So that was the last time it was pushed, and it was a subdued telecast in a smaller venue. So as a result, an exact date has not been determined, but it has been previously reported that Fox is aiming to air it in January. So that's going to be interesting. January. I mean, if it's I'm not sure specifically if it covers this year or last year, or just a certain amount in between. Nominations were announced July 12th, and yeah, I mean, if it's pushed, TV Academy has been pushing for a November date. It's going to be very interesting how that plays out. Again, I hope for the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA to get what they want, and I support the strike and what they're doing. So it'll be interesting how that plays out from here. Something that came in earlier today is that Disney Plus will be increasing their prices for the second time in under a year. This time last year, the price of getting into Disney Plus was $7.99 or around that price. And now it's going to be, it was raised to $10.99, and now it is $13.99. It will soon to be as of October 12th. That's specifically for Disney Plus Premium. The one with ads will remain at $7.99 each. Hulu without ads will also increase from $14.99 to $17.99 a month. And that will also stay at $7.99 if you want it with no ads. So that is a full over 100% increase over just getting it with ads. And the bundle of the two, I'm thinking Disney Plus and Hulu both with ads are $9.99 a month. So again, that is a big jump. If you can get bundles, then it's going to be less of an effect. I have a Disney Plus bundle. When Disney Plus launched, I had Sprint at the time, and it came with Hulu for free. So there actually was a way for people to get Disney Plus added onto their Hulu as a Disney Plus bundle, and I think the only one they offered also had ESPN Plus, which was fine. And it was overall a really good value. I don't remember how much it is now because of the Hulu discount, as it is Hulu with ads, and it's Disney Plus without ads. There is a chance that this may go up in cost for me, but hopefully not too much. ESPN Plus pricing will also increase by $1 from $9.99 to $10.99 a month. I think how it came up to be, last I checked a few months ago, was if you, with the fact that Hulu is free, it's pretty much the cost of Disney Plus and ESPN Plus at $1. I think that's around the amount that I calculated. It may have gone up a little bit since because of these price increases for both services. I mean, ESPN Plus, I'm not sure if they've risen from $9.99 in the past few years. Disney Plus, as it says here, went up twice. Actually, I don't know if it says it here, but I definitely looked into it before this. Disney Plus was $7.99 around that amount, and now it will be $13.99 if you don't want ads. And I can imagine a lot of people don't like having ads, including me, especially. Ahead of the price hikes, Disney on September 6th will have a new ad-free bundled subscription of Disney Plus and Hulu for $20 a month, $19.99 specifically. It says a 37% discount from standalone plans. And there's actually a good little chart here showing all the comparisons and how much things can be. Some of the options have annual prices, and it's interesting. A lot of price increases across the board in a lot of different services. Spotify just had their first increase, and I might be wrong on this, but like, it might have been their first in like a decade. They were, or several years at least, and it was obviously a pretty big deal. They've kept the price that they've had for a very long time, impressively through it all, with all the contracts they were signing with exclusive rights, everything they've been doing, the DJ AI recently, and now they're going up. I think it was like between $1 to $3. Might have been $1. So that's interesting. HBO Max, when they renamed to Max, also technically raised their prices as well, but said, "Don't worry, it's going to be 6 months. Sorry, 6 months that you'll keep the features that you have at the price you're paying now." So probably 6 months in, a lot of people are going to cancel because more and more people are getting 4K TVs. They're using more devices. They want to be able to download more content. And all of that is the focus for their higher plan that didn't exist with HBO Max, but it really did, just at a lower price. Upsetting a lot of people, but they said, "Don't worry, 6 months, that's fine, just 6 months." But, it's not something people are going to be happy about, understandably. This is keeping in mind that just recently, in an earnings call, which is probably around the time they announced this increase earlier today, August 9th, that Disney is, quote, actively exploring, unquote, ways to crack down on password sharing. Disney CEO Bob Iger saying that they will update the subscriber agreements that you agree to as, being a subscriber, if it wasn't obvious. Some might think it's not. Later this year. This is right after Netflix went ahead with their cracking down on password sharing. Now it's like households, all based on a household. You got to connect to it, I think, like once every 30 days. You might be able to have like some thing where if you tell it you'll be away for 7 days, you'll let them know and your device will work, whether it's a TV or, like a smartphone or tablet, which makes more sense. And as a result, they're clearly cracking down on it as well, because with Netflix, the assumption was, they're going to lose subscribers. But from what I remember reading, they went up in subscribers. There was no massive boycott. It was instead people saying, I need Netflix like crazy. And like, it's great content, even though some content's not that good. But you never know. I love some things on Stranger Things. For example, and BoJack Horseman, two of my favorite shows I've ever watched, and they're Netflix originals. Stranger Things, I'm still waiting for that final season, but because of the strikes and whatnot, I'll gladly wait. But with that being said, people, instead of boycotting Netflix and not going through with it, or maybe even some people canceling it, they ended up, as far as I remember, gaining subscribers. The amount of people that got more subscribers, the amount of people that ended up subscribing because they lost access was much higher than the amount of people that wanted to boycott Netflix and just canceled theirs, even if they weren't affected by the password sharing. Maybe they are mainly a household, but it affected the people that, for example, went off to college. They had a computer, phone, a tablet, whatnot, and now they couldn't access Netflix unless they paid for their own subscription. It didn't really matter a whole lot, but except to some that you can transfer your profile to a new account so they can kick it in. But in the end, I guess it worked. And now it looks like other companies are going to be moving forward. I'm not sure about Max or Paramount Plus, but Disney Plus will. And because of the association with Hulu and ESPN Plus, I think it may even all be optionally the same account. I don't know about ESPN, but Hulu, I'm like 90% sure it can be if it isn't already. If Disney Plus changes, and it looks like they are later this year, then Hulu will as well, which is something to keep in mind. So that is very interesting. When asked how many people are sharing passwords across Disney services, CEO Bob Iger declined to provide a number, but said it's significant, and that they have the technical capability to monitor sign-ins and the company plans to get at this issue next year. So yeah, that is something to keep in mind. I don't support anything that's illegal, but some people might get upset at this and will just find other ways to get their content. But based on how Netflix did it and how they were successful and actually got more subscribers out of it, then maybe it's not as horrible of an idea as these companies, as some make it out to seem, but it's overall going to be it may end up being a successful move, even though in the eyes of many it's going to be anti-consumer. Ending password sharing, even if it's like family members, like between family members, the household restriction for Netflix means that between family members, it's not even as easily possible. There's always ways to circumvent it, but I won't mention them here. You can definitely do your own research, because I don't know how legitimate and legal they are. Probably legitimate. I've seen it work, but maybe not legal. You can now verify your Threads profile on Mastodon. So Threads, not as big as it was about a month or two ago, but it is now something that you can verify on your Mastodon profile to link the two together. A lot of people probably had a Mastodon account months before Threads came around. Maybe not a whole lot. Mastodon, as much of a quote-unquote rival it tried to be with Twitter in just a lot of different ways. I have a Mastodon account, so... but at the end of the day, it just didn't really get all those people. But then a lot of people went to Threads. Now, in terms of the activity and activeness of Threads, it's maybe not as good as it could be that Meta and Mark Zuckerberg was hoping for, but it is still there. And I hope it continues to get improvements, because anything to combat, I don't know whether to call it X or Twitter. I'm not one to dead name, but I guess for the sake of officiality, I will call it X, unless I call it X/Twitter. So Twitter, anything to compete with them is going to be overall good, in my humble, legal, theoretical opinion. So being able to verify is good. It's not the same as the Meta verified program that I've been seeing, where you have to pay to be verified. But this is in terms of on Mastodon. You can add your Threads profile on supported platforms to verify your identity. When I tried to do it on my phone, the Mastodon app, I have yet to try it myself. I have a Mastodon account and, of course, a Threads account. But when I had no option to do it, at least not in my view, using the official Mastodon app on my Android phone. Not sure if it's an update that has to come through. I'll probably check it out later to see on the Mastodon website if whatever I use. I didn't make my account on I think it's the official Mastodon server. I made it on a different one. Just wanted to check it out, and I have no plans to change it to anyone else at this time. So, the plan for Meta is to eventually integrate Threads with a decentralized activity pub protocol, which I think is what's used for Mastodon. Not Blue Sky, though, keeping that in mind. That's the other popular alternative to X/Twitter that has also been gaining steam. I somehow got a Blue Sky account as well, and it is definitely a different vibe from Mastodon, I'll say that. But it is also a possible alternative to Twitter, assuming enough people move over to it, which the expectation is that's what has to happen for a competitor to X/Twitter, or whatever it's called now. I'm kind of joking, it's X. But it's unknown if Meta will continue to follow through with this, but it does look like, because of this integration, the verification of a Threads profile on Mastodon, that it is possible that this activity pub support in Threads will come in the future, which is great to hear, because that just means these decentralized platforms will be able to communicate with each other, thereby making a overall more social network. This one's interesting. So YouTube, now, if you have your watch history turned off, instead of a page full of videos that it thinks you might enjoy using its sort of algorithms without using the watch history, now it will just be Virtually nothing. Google says in their statement that it's part of a new viewer experience, and that if you had no significant prior watch history and that you switch it off, well, you won't have the ability to get proper recommendations, it seems like. Because without that watch history or a significant prior one, it just won't be able to figure it out anymore, rather than ads and suggested videos that it will probably give to someone that's going into YouTube for the first time, or maybe in like incognito mode. So a screenshot of, I think this is on, I'm not sure if it's iOS or Android. It might be iOS from the search bar. You only now see a search bar and buttons for the usual buttons on the bottom for short subscriptions in the library, and the plus icon for, I guess, uploading videos. And a pop-up saying your watch history is off, and to change it so you can get the latest videos tailored to you. I support this. Understandably, this is now it's not going to be as much of an ad-filled suggested video, somehow suggested using algorithms or whatnot. Now it's just going to be, we're not supposed to know you. We're not supposed to know a lot about you. We're not going to try to know a lot about you. Unless you update a setting, we'll try to know a lot about you. It'll be interesting if you never had a watch history, and then you turn it on, and then maybe it gives you suggested videos. I can't try this. I've had a watch history on for a very long time, so I can't try this myself unless I completely clear it out, which I don't plan to. I know, privacy concerns. Duh. But that's just something I don't plan to do. But this is overall good for people that, don't want these videos that they know they're not going to be interested in, or probably not, and they have the program just has no idea what you want and just gives you videos or advertisements or a bit of both. Now that's no longer going to be a problem. Again, that's good. Google says it's going to roll out this feature over the next few months, but several users across the web are already seeing the change. So, again, I can't see if that's the case. I guess I could open incognito and see. No. If I open incognito and I'm not signed in, I get some very strange videos popping up. Of course, the first one is Mr. Beast. And, yeah, this is understandably a lot of, I don't know if it's using other data. I'm using incognito mode in Chrome. I don't know if it's going to be different if I do it anywhere else. But, yeah, overall, I consider that pro-consumer to combat the anti-consumer move that is coming up from Disney. And here's another one that may be more unifying, but not for the people that liked hearing the first thing I talked about. This is about Google Messages. Now, I think it's kicked in now, but starting now, or around now, RCS conversations are encrypted by default. So it's possible that RCS messages were not being encrypted but in the get-go, and now they will be if you use the Google Messages app, unless, yeah, it seems like it's for only Google's Messages app. So if you use Samsung Messages, which is pre-installed on a lot of Samsung smartphones, I don't know about internationally, but it definitely is in the U.S. I'm not sure about that, but if you use Google Messages side to side, it will be fully encrypted. Also, they announced that group chats and messages are now end-to-end encrypted as well. That was something that I think was in a beta for a while. I'm not sure if I was in the beta. I am in the beta, but I think it might have been server side rolling this out. So there's that. It's end-to-end encryption. They started rolling it out in late 2020. So for them to do it across the board by default is fantastic. I'm not sure if this means by default I'm not sure if by default this means it's on by default. I'm not sure the comparison in between. No, I don't see if that means it's by default, because I know if you're tuning in, if you're opening Google Messages for the first time, there actually is a chance that it's not, RCS is not on by default. You might get a pop-up for the first time or second time, saying, hey, you should turn it on. You get a bunch more features, and it's more encrypted, it's safer, read indicators. But I don't think that's on by default. I think it's SMS unless you turn that on, which is still pretty lame because of how many people use the Google Messages app. It's the default Android messaging app for a lot of people. Now, obviously, I know there's a lot of different options compared to messaging over SMS or RCS. For example, WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, Snapchat. It goes on and on. Goes on and on. I don't even know if there's still an option to chat through YouTube messaging anymore. I think there used to be, if not already. But, chat through RIP, Hangouts, what I used to use in high school. And of course, RCS is not supported by any iPhones or iOS devices as of this very moment, and doesn't look like that's planned to be changed anytime soon. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have a lot of Android buddies in your group, whether it's your family or friends, or a bit of both, then this is cool. It's a good extra option. But realistically, what you want to do is get everyone onto the same platform. Unfortunately, and Discord. Unfortunately, I message a lot of people through Google Messages, WhatsApp. I have Signal and Telegram. I don't really message people through them, but I do know people that have accounts on both of them, so there is that. I message people through Instagram. I might have mentioned WhatsApp already. If not, that's another one. And Discord. There's always Discord as well. So I message people through a lot of different platforms. I wish there would just be a unifying one, but unfortunately Apple decided not to have RCS support, instead of the response being reportedly, if your mom, if you can't talk with your mom through iMessage because they don't have an iPhone, Tim Cook's answer was get your mom an iPhone, reportedly. I don't think it was caught on video. So that's, that sucks, but this is good. Encryption is good, end-to-end encryption. So it's like WhatsApp. WhatsApp, one of the main features is end-to-end encryption, which is something you want, to have your messages encrypted so no one's snooping and spying on you. Overall, big win. And now a little dash of futurology, as I'll say, more of the forward-looking technology that will possibly change our lives. General Motors has announced yesterday they're going to equip all of their electric cars and trucks with the ability to act as backup power supplies during blackouts. I know there's a specific terminology for this where you can actually use your car, if it's an electric car, as sort of a battery to charge like your house, to keep your house on maybe during post-hurricane and the grid's out. You can use your car, and because it's electric, you could even charge it with solar power, and it could be like a cheaper way to like set up like a whole solar grid kind of house system. I might be speaking out of my butt here, but I think the Nissan Leaf has this function. As far as I know, the Chevrolet Bolts don't, hence why this is a big deal. General Motors, they make the Chevrolet, GMC, and Cadillac cars, so it's going to be two-way charging technology, as I've mentioned. I forgot the name for it, but like I said, the Nissan Leaf has this, but most of their cars don't have the larger battery that is available since, I think, 2019 or so. And so they have a smaller battery that's not as useful, and the range is not as good. It's like 120, 130 miles for the smaller battery, and it's like around 200, low 200s for the larger one. The batteries just aren't large, and they have some sort of strange cooling system, which makes them not as efficient as well, from what I remember. So this is a big deal because GM, General Motors, the Chevrolet Bolt had like 250 miles range. Their batteries were larger. They're more cooled. It might have been like liquid cooled instead of air or passive cooled that the Nissan Leaf does, as far as I know. And it's also good that it says it's mentioning, this article is that a new version of the Chevrolet Bolt will be included because one big decision that GM made a few months back was that they were going to discontinue the car, but then they reversed the decision in July because the Chevrolet Bolt, ignoring tax credits, is the cheapest electric car you can get. I think it starts around 27,000, and the Nissan Leaf is like 29,000, just barely. But because of but without tax credits, the Bolt is cheaper. And I think with the tax credits, I think this year they're both. I know the Bolt is eligible for the full $7,500. So if you have that in your taxes in the U.S., you'll be able to take them off as a tax credit by getting the Bolt. Non-refundable though. Next year, it will be refundable. You'll be able to use that, I think, as like a rebate upfront for electric car. But the expectation was the Bolt was not going to there. Now I keep seeing this in articles that they are reversing the decision to discontinue it, but I don't know if that means there will be one for 2024. Because I remember the first time they mentioned, okay, we'll think about bringing it back because they're going to use the new Ultium technology that makes their batteries more efficient and larger, and other means that makes it more useful in long-range trips. The Bolt and the Bolt EUV did not use Ultium. They were actually going to discontinue these to add up factory space for a different kind of Chevrolet car that was going to use Ultium. But I think all of the ones they're working on that are electric are like SUVs, larger cars, trucks. They're not really like the Bolt, where it's a hatchback or a mini SUV, like the EUV was. It's smaller than an SUV, but it's kind of like formed. It's shaped like one. So this is overall a big win. While all GM vehicles will be able to supply power to homes, customers will need to pay extra for hardware to connect to household electrical systems. That's fine. That's expected. You're not going to be able to just, if your house isn't built for anything like receiving power from a different source than what you've been getting already, then of course it's not just going to work like that. But it's still good. I mean, this was expected. And electric vehicles, this article doesn't mention the Nissan Leaf, but a more relevant one, because to have this sort of setup, you do have to spend quite a bit to get into it because of the expectation. Maybe you want to also add solar panel, maybe you want to, you have to like set up the whole situation with your house. So it mentions the Ford F-150 Lightning, which is pretty pricey, close to twice the amount, I think, compared to the base Bolt, even after the price increase they did a little over half a year ago, where it was like just under 26,000. I think it went to just under 27,000. Not that huge of a difference, but for some, it could be a deal breaker. I'm just saying. There is that. And they're seen as a way for utilities to store excess solar or renewable energy. Again, if you have a battery, and it's not a huge one, but you do also have a solar panel grid, this is a good idea, to add to that battery, because electric vehicles are meant to last a very long time. Now, the Chevrolet Bolt was ridden with insane recalls, battery fires, the whole ordeal. It was pretty, to say the least, pretty rough. But now and then it didn't really matter as they were discontinuing it. Now they're not, which is good. But overall, big win. And I can't wait to see more of this kick in because, more solar power energy use rather than non-renewable resources is going to be good for the country, good for the planet, and I wholeheartedly support him. Anyone that doesn't, little weird champ. Okay. In this one, I'm just going to go over a little bit because this is definitely outside my league of understanding, but this was pretty interesting. U.S. scientists repeat fusion ignition breakthrough for the second time. Apparently, December 5th, a net energy gain in a fusion experiment using lasers was achieved. And then July 30th, an experiment in the National Ignition Facility produced a higher energy yield than in December. A spokesperson for Lawrence Livermore said this is a Reuters article. A very popular one. So, Energy Department calling it a major scientific breakthrough decades in the making that will pave the way for advancements in national defense and the future of clean power. Coming right off the heels of the GM article going into this. This is cool, too. Net energy gain from, I think, nothing, possibly, is Really cool to see, again, away from non-renewable resources. Um, Generating 3.15 megajoules of energy output after the laser delivered 2.05 megajoules. That's great. That's like around 50% more than what it outputted. That's really good to see. I got to pump those numbers up, those rookie numbers. Yeah, scientists focus the laser on a target of fuel to fuse two light atoms into a denser one, releasing the energy. Yeah, again, not really something I know a lot about. Department saying, in other words, produce more energy from fusion than the laser energy used to drive it. Yeah, very cool. Tiny step closer to limitless clean energy. Very ambitious, little vague, perhaps too vague for my taste, but whatever brings us there, even if it's slow but steady, it wins the race. So that's really good to see, and I will keep up with that because I think it's something pretty ambitious that I think has a lot of potential to change how we see energy, change how we utilize it overall. That's very, very futurology. I know I didn't really mention anything on virtual reality, as I understand. In late September, there's going to be a MetaQuest 3, a MetaConnect, that will talk about the MetaQuest 3. There were rumors about the FCC filings, I think it was, that are going to announce, they're going to show off new technologies that this headset has that the Quest 2 doesn't. I think something about some radio frequency, and I think it was like Wi-Fi 6E it might have, which would be a step up from the Quest 2. I think the Quest 2 has like Wi-Fi 5 or 6. It's somewhere in between. I don't think Wi-Fi 6 was as common. It would have been impressive if it has full Wi-Fi 6 support. It might. It has some support. I know that. I do see it mentioned from time to time on my Quest 2. I have a MetaQuest 2 VR headset. Absolutely fantastic. I got it late 2021. It's fantastic. It's genuinely a great device, but obviously it is Meta-owned, as I've mentioned WhatsApp a few times here and there. If you're anti-Meta and all of that, I support it. I understand. Don't worry, I'm not against all of that. But I do have the Quest 2. I'm not sure if I'm ready to get the Quest 3 just yet, but we'll see when we get there because it is going to be $500. But if it's a noticeable upgrade, I've had my Quest 2, by the time this releases around this time, I got it around Black Friday 2021, so it'll have been close to 2 years since I've gotten it. So if they somehow convince me that maybe long-term I'll look into it, I'm probably not going to get it this year if it's available this year, and it's very likely to be available this year. But I will also definitely look at the Meta Connect. Maybe not live, but I will be interested in this. That's for certain. I was not interested in the Quest Pro. Didn't look like enough of an upgrade, especially because it was $1,500. I think now it's $1,000. But there's that. It's something definitely to look into because after the billions of dollars Meta has lost, putting all of their worth, a lot of their worth into VR, Horizon Worlds and whatnot. Hopefully this is what, I say hopefully, but this is either going to, in my eyes, make or break short-term VR gains. Maybe not long-term. I think long-term VR will continue to grow in other ways, maybe business, kind of like Google Glass. It looked like it was going to be some very ambitious thing you put in front of your eyes. You have an always working screen. Ended up not being that successful, privacy concerned, everything in between. So it went more business-oriented, and I think now it's just been fully discontinued because it looks like VR, in that department industry, VR is going to be at least a short-term future. Where that goes, Apple Vision Pro next year remains to be seen. A lot can change. Maybe this time next year, Meta will have fully lost, and somehow Apple will already be announcing they're making a cheaper version of their Apple Vision Pro called Apple Vision. I hope it's not that name, but it could be. Hopefully not. I'd like to end it off with a little personal thing. About a week ago, 8 days, I actually finally got around to seeing Oppenheimer. Fantastic movie. When it comes to films, I am more of a critic than an audience fan, outside of maybe Marvel films. It was hard for me to be unbiased with Endgame. I kept up with Marvel for a very long time. Same for the Spider-Man movies. No Way Home. When I saw it in the theaters, it was fantastic, especially with a full audience. And that's actually what happened with Oppenheimer. It was an almost full audience. I didn't see it in the proper 70 millimeter IMAX format. I actually have a theater close to me in my area that has the 70 millimeter IMAX, but of course it was very hard to get tickets, and it was more convenient for me to just see it with my friend at a more traditional theater. I still saw it in IMAX, but I think it was IMAX with laser, and we were in the front half. It seems like it's always got to be mentioned, like how someone saw Oppenheimer, because it was a Christopher Nolan film. You know, for a long time, he's made films to be seen in IMAX. So when they release on your TV, it's not as great of an experience. Interstellar is one of my favorite films of all time, right next to Sidney White. Oh, great movie. Casino Royale, fantastic movies. But I didn't see Interstellar in theaters. I saw it on my TV. And while I had a decent soundbar, it's uncomparable to just seeing it on such a massive screen like IMAX, like true IMAX. That would be a movie that if they play in a local IMAX theater that's like proper IMAX, I'm saying it so often, sorry, then I would gladly spend $20 or less to see Interstellar again, because I've seen the film, I think, at least 3 times, and I genuinely love it every time. But Oppenheimer was a great film. It's just the cinematography, the editing, the sound mixing was a bit strange, but I have yet to see Tenet, and I heard that was a really big problem with that film too. I did not see it in theaters. I do plan to see it on TV eventually, though. But the sound mixing, it was overall fine. I was able to understand almost everything everyone was saying. And overall, the film was just fantastic, and I recommend seeing it. I have yet to see Barbie. I do plan to see Barbie. How? I'm not sure yet whether it's going to be on TV or the theaters. I do have to find a few friends that have somehow not seen Barbie yet and watch it with them. If not, I'm okay waiting a little bit longer to see it. I heard that's fantastic too, but I was personally a bit more excited to see Oppenheimer. I know Barbie is probably, the critics are overall saying it's a great film. Strange, some people are saying it's like it's woke propaganda or something. I did see a few details about what they might have meant by that, but that's stupid. Those details, I kind of wish I didn't see. It's kind of like a spoiler. And obviously, I won't mention it here. It just makes me want to see it a little bit more. In a good way, not a bad way. But with that being said, Oppenheimer, great film, very impactful. I got jump scared a little bit. I won't say where. I was near the end. It's just the sound, seeing it in IMAX theater is just fantastic. It's something you have to try. So there's that. There's my wholehearted recommendation. A little personal thing at the very end. And that'll do it for me. This was my first true podcast I've ever done, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what kind of topics you want me to cover in the future, maybe recent articles, or maybe you want me to review something else, maybe have me check something out. I think I covered a little bit of everything. Hopefully I did. And maybe this will be weekly, maybe twice a week. I'm just now seeing this has been over 44 minutes. That's fantastic. And hopefully you guys liked it. If not, darn. If so, cool. Make sure to follow wherever platform you're listening to this from. I say watching. Maybe I'll do video someday. Unknown yet. I need to have a proper setup. And thanks to everyone that tuned in to this whole thing. And I hope to see you guys in the future. This has been The Fresh Wire with Jason Griwa. Take care of yourselves and have a darn good one. Peace.